What's going on, everybody? Here we are again, my favorite video of the week, Wednesday Q&A. This is where I answer your questions with my opinions, and that's what they are, opinions. If you disagree with any of my opinions, tell me down below. This is meant to be a discussion, not just me talking to you, but us communicating back and forth. Thank you to everybody who submitted a question this week. I got a lot of great questions, and one of the things that was cool about this week is a lot of my long-time subscribers and long-time commenters had questions that were this week. That was awesome. Another thing that was cool is that there were several questions where a couple of people asked a very, very similar question. So I'm going to be able to answer a couple of questions with some of these answers. So that is always awesome as well. So let's go ahead, take a look at our first question right now. With all the many cards in the hobby, how does a person decide what to collect? How has your collection evolved throughout the years? This is a really fun question because I think we need to always remember that it's okay to change what we're interested in. It's okay to change what we're collecting. Right now, you might be really into the middle 1960s and you're collecting a bunch of cards from the middle 1960s. Maybe you're a set collector right now. Maybe you're putting together the 1962 Topps baseball set. And then in a few years, you say, you know what I'm really into now are the 50 and 51 Bowmans. It's okay to change. See, the cool thing about cards is they're an asset. And they usually don't plummet in value. Now, they're going to have times they go up and times they go down. And it's just like the business cycle. It's just like the economy. And when you buy something, it still has value. Assuming that you're buying something that's not speculative, right? So I give you an example. A few years ago, my kids were young. My family decided, it'd be cool if we bought a boat. So we bought about a 15-year-old boat. And my thought process was the depreciation is out of this boat. I can either have this money, and it was like $6,000 for the boat. I can either have this $6,000 in my savings account, or I could go buy a boat for the $6,000, knowing that I could turn around and sell the boat for $6,000 very easily. So we enjoyed that boat for 3, 4, 5 years. And then we decided there were some other things we wanted to do instead. So we sold the boat and we actually made a little bit of money on it. And then we took that money and put it into something else. It's the same thing with cards. If right now you're putting together a mantle run and you go out and you buy, a 59 mantle, and maybe you get a pretty decent one and you pay about $1,000 for it. And then in 3 years you decide, I don't want to do a mantle run, I want to do a Jackie Robinson run. It's okay to sell that 59 mantle to go buy the Jackie Robinson that you want. It's okay to change your mind. And the cool thing is when you're spending money on cards, if you're making good investments with your cards, if you're buying cards that are going to have lasting value, that when you change your mind, you can sell those cards for something else. You don't have this loyalty to this card that once you buy it, you have to keep it for the rest of your life. Though there are some cards you might keep for the rest of your life. So the first thing is, it's okay to change what your interests are. And it's okay to sell some of the cards over here that you used to be interested in for something over here. So my interests have changed a lot. I've always liked vintage cards. I've always liked cards from my childhood. I'm always going to be wanting cards like Don Mattingly rookies and Mark McGwire Olympic cards and Jose Canseco rated rookie cards. And I'm also going to want Willie Mays cards and Hank Aaron cards and Mickey Mantle cards. I'm always going to want that stuff. For me personally, I just say whatever right now you're interested in, buy that. And if it changes, you can either add to your collection with the new things you're interested in, or you can liquidate some of the things you're no longer interested in to buy the things that you're now interested in. Now, another question I got this week was, what are some other things that I collect? Do I collect anything besides cards? And I do. You know, for a long time, I collected ticket stubs. And I've had some really cool ticket stubs. I had a Reggie Jackson 3-home run World Series ticket stub. I had a Derek Jeter flip play ticket stub. In fact, my dad and I were at that game. We were at the game and watched the Derek Jeter flip play in Oakland. But there are others as well. I had a Jesse Owens Olympic ticket. I had a Steve Prefontaine mile ticket from the Olympics. I had a Michael Jordan 1984 gold medal Olympic game ticket, and I got a big story for that, which would take too long today. But for a while, ticket stubs were my thing. And as I got back into cards, primarily just cards instead of cards and ticket stubs, I sold off my ticket stubs so I could put that money into my card collecting. So I've collected ticket stubs, I've collected cards. With my kids, it's kind of fun. I collect Funko Pops, and I put those in my classroom, and it creates conversations with my students. So I have quite a few Funko Pops. I used to collect old Morgan Stanley dollars. Morgan Stanley dollars. Morgan silver dollars. Sorry. Morgan silver dollars. And I collected those for a long time. And I had them all from the late 1800s, a few from the early 1900s, but mostly 1800s. And I decided as my interest in cards continued to build, I sold those off and I put that money into cards. So yeah, I've collected a lot of things, and yeah, it's hard to stay focused. And I would say, don't look at this as like a long term, you're stuck with a card. Buy what you want right now, and if your mind changes or your interests change, you can always liquidate and do something else with that money that you're interested in then.
I've never had any interest in grading because I would never part with my cards. Recently I realized that if something ever happened to me, my family wouldn't have any idea of the worth of my collection. Do you think collectors should think beyond the hobby and have some cards graded so your family has something to go by?
I think this is a really important question, and it's actually a question I get a lot. So I have a TikTok account, which I don't do a lot of. I have Instagram and Twitter, which I'm just mildly active on. And then I have a lot of people that reach out to me via email. And if you ever want to contact me, just be patient because it's not my primary email address and I only check it like once or twice a week. So if I'm not responding, don't take offense to it. But one of the questions I've gotten a lot from people on my email off of YouTube is exactly this question. What do I do in case I die or I get really sick and my family doesn't know what my cards are worth? What do I do? Because I don't want graded cards. I want ungraded cards. See, it's really easy for a novice to go onto Google, find out what something's worth by just typing what's in the SGC tag. The year, the brand, the player, the number of the card, and the grade. And they can very quickly figure out what it's worth. And it's not super difficult to liquidate it when you know what it's worth. But if your cards are ungraded, it makes it difficult for someone who might come across it someday. I remember when my dad's dad passed away a few years ago. Now, he was an agricultural engineer, and he had all sorts of different equipment and gadgets, surveying equipment and different things. And we didn't really know what any of it was. And a lot of those things you just think, put it in the pile for an estate sale or something. Well, a lot of it, I just went through one thing at a time and I just researched it, Googled it, and we sold a lot of that stuff on eBay. But that's a lot of work and it's really tough with cards. So here's my advice. I really think getting some cards graded is a good idea for the high-end valuable cards if that's something that you're worried about. Another thing that you could do is leave with your collection the name and number of some people that you trust, that your family can contact to get information about it. So, for example, if you have a friend in the area who is a fellow card collector and you know is not going to take advantage of your family, put all over where you store your cards their name, their number, tell them that you're my friend, they'll know who I am, and have them help you liquidate the cards or have them tell you what they're worth. That's an idea if you don't want to grade them. Another idea is if you keep them on the back, put a little sticky note. Put a little thing with a date and the approximate value of all of them. So just like a little sticker, July 2023 and the dollar amount that it's worth at this time. And then every 6 months go in and just kind of update it. And that way they'll have an idea. Will that take some time if you've got 100 cards? It'll take a little bit of time, but you know the approximate value of your cards, and you're going to prevent your family from being taken advantage of. So those are a couple of ideas. I think grading it is the best way to make sure that they get full value because it's the easiest for them to sell, like on eBay someday. But I think the second best option would be name, contact information of someone you trust that they can talk to about their collection, about their collection that they're inheriting, or leave them like a little bit of a map, a list, and put on the cards themselves what they're worth and approximate values, so they don't go into a card shop and sell a $3,000 card for $100.
You talked about feeling like you and your dad's collections are one. How about your brother? Also, with TTM, have you ever lost a card through the mail?
All right, so a couple good questions on this one. Now, my brother did collect cards with us. He, for 2-3 years, he was pretty heavy into cards as well, mostly from about 1989 to about 1991 or 92 were when he was into cards the most. I remember he was more into football cards than me. He had a lot of those early scorecards with the Barry Sanders and the Troy Aikman rookies. He had a lot of those Pro Set, if you remember the old Pro Set football cards. He had some of those. He was a big Darryl Strawberry fan, so he had some Darryl Strawberry cards. And he kind of faded in collecting after just a few years. He was still into it, but my dad and I were going to a lot of shows together, and my brother wasn't going. My brother's a huge baseball fan. He loves baseball. And he does like cards, but he just doesn't have a ton of stuff from his childhood, and he's got 2 young kids. He's busy with his job, so he's not really that into it right now as far as being active in the card community. That said, what I started doing several years ago when I was getting back into cards is for his birthday and for Christmas every year, I started buying him baseball cards. So for part of his birthday present, I would get him like, a Don Mattingly Topps rookie and something. I've gotten him a Dave Winfield rookie and something. I've gotten him a Greg Nettles rookie card and something. And so being the big Yankee fan that he is, I buy him a lot of Yankee rookie cards, Derek Jeter, stuff like that. Now, my brother was always more into memorabilia than me, so he has a pretty extensive memorabilia collection. He's got some really cool autographs and stuff that he has stored away, mostly of Yankee legends. So as far as that is concerned, I think I kind of look at my dad's collection as like the 3 of our collection, kind of thing. But I look at my brother's collection as my brother's collection, and my collection is kind of my collection. And then my dad doesn't generally buy things that I have because, my dad lives 5 minutes away and my brother lives 2 hours away. So if my dad ever wants to look through my cards, which we do, he could just come over and look at them. So yeah, to a certain extent, he is a collector, and I'm trying to get him more back into collecting by buying him stuff. In fact, his birthday's coming up this week in just a few days, and he's got another card coming. He just doesn't know it yet. So yeah, it's something we did for a long time, and it's something that I'm hoping to kind of pull him back into once his kids get a little bit older and his time frees up a little bit more. Regarding losing a card through the mail for TTM, I've had TTM requests never come back. Is that because they just never came back or got lost in the mail? I don't really know. What I do know is I would never send a card through the mail that if I lost it, it would be a problem for me. So I only send cards that I'm okay losing. Bob Cousy, for example, is a very consistent TTM returner, and he personalizes it pretty much every time. I wouldn't be sending a Bob Cousy rookie card or a 1961 Bob Cousy through the mail, because if it didn't come back, that would be an issue for me. But if I didn't get my Dennis Eckersley rookie back in the mail, wouldn't be the end of the world. So I don't know if I've lost them through the mail, but I have had some not get returned.
People say buy the card, not the grade, but not all do. Is there too much emphasis on grades? Sometimes lower grades are nicer than higher ones. The price can be a lot. Will there be some sort of market correction with cards in low and mid grades that have a great overall presentation compared to their counterparts?
Yeah, it really is difficult to buy the card, not the grade. It's if I wrote what I thought was a really good paper for my English class in high school, and I thought it was really, really good, but then I got a C on the paper, I would think, yeah, my paper wasn't that good, even though I thought it was really good before I got the grade. I kind of feel like the grade has too much influence on our opinion of something. And it's the same thing with card grades. So it is very, very difficult to buy the card and ignore the grade. To me, the grade is a guide. It is not the law. It is a guide. It is a suggestion. Now, I just posted a video yesterday, and the video yesterday is all about this sort of topic. And it's from the point of view of eye appeal and centering specifically. It's amazing to me how much of a premium centered cards have over non-centered cards. You can have two cards side by side. One is centered. One is maybe better in every way. But the centered card tends to sell for quite a bit more than the non-centered card. And I understand that because, again, these are cards. These are objects we look at. And when we look at them, we want them to look right. It's the same reason why when I walk through my house, if I notice a picture frame on the wall is been tilted, I have to fix it or it doesn't look right. It's the same thing with centering on a card. If it's off center, it just kind of bugs a little bit. So I do get the premium, but the amount of the premium is kind of unbelievable. Now, to your point, I do think that grades are over time going to become less and less relevant as far as the price is concerned. I do think we're going to start seeing a lot of 5s priced higher than 6s because the 5 is nicer. And I think we're going to see 6s priced higher than 7s when the 6 is better than the 7. Now, if the 7 is better than the 6, the price is going to obviously be higher. But I do think there's going to be a correction as far as the undergraded cards. The cards that deserved higher grades. But when you clearly look at them, they're very, very nice cards. I do think that those are going to start commanding more of a premium than the card that just has a higher number grade, but doesn't look as nice as the one next to it. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole grading thing plays out. I can guarantee you there are going to be evolutions in the grading system that are going to severely date the current grades and make them less relevant. There were times when Star Wars came out and people were like, this is amazing special effects. We're never going to see anything like this. This is cutting edge. And it's a great movie. My oldest daughter loves Star Wars. Star Wars is cool. I have great memories of Star Wars. But if you look at the more modern Star Wars movie special effects and compare them to the original trilogy, you can't compare them. Because of advancement, there's going to be improvements, and the improvements are going to make the things that are dated seem dated. That's just how I see it playing out. How long will that take? Who knows? But you cannot tell me that with technology and advancement in software and advancement and all these sorts of things, that the grades that were done in the late 90s are going to be as relevant as they were in the late 90s. I just don't think that's going to happen. So yes, I think there's going to be a correction. And yes, ultimately, I think it's going to be when we look at the card, which card do we like the looks of most? Not what's the number at the top.
Why deal with the nightmare that is the National? Ticket prices, travel, lodging, etc. Is it about the discounts at the show? The costs seem like they'd offset any discount. Also, I definitely prefer seeing a card in person over a picture on eBay, But there is a cost I have not heard anyone talk about: gas for your vehicle, entrance fee, parking, etc. Aren't those costs part of buying a card?
So I read both questions because the questions are so very similar in my opinion and in my response to them. You know, when you talk about going to the National, you talk about going to a card show, and you talk about the expense involved. Yeah, there have been times I've driven 2 hours to San Francisco, gone to a card show, and 2 hours back. I probably dumped $50 worth of gas on the way down and $50 worth of gas on the way back. I paid $10 to get in. I paid $10 for parking, and I spent, $120 or more on the day without buying a card. And then I buy a couple of cards for, $40 each. And I'm like, I only spent $80 today. Well, no, actually I spent $200. But that's completely negating the fact that going to a card show is an experience. Going to a card show is more than going to buy or to sell. It's like, I might drive to the movie theater and sit in the movie theater for 2.5 hours and pay $15 for the movie. It's just a form of entertainment. People might go to a baseball game and spend, a couple of $100 driving to, parking, tickets for a baseball game. This is just a different form of entertainment. And along the way, I'm buying stuff that I like. So I don't look at going to a show as the travel and the admission being a cost for the show. That's a chance to see my friends. That's a chance to hang out with my dad. That's a chance to meet new people. That's a chance to see some cool stuff. There are people that this weekend are going to drive into Sacramento and go to a museum. And they'll walk around and they'll look at paintings on the wall. And then they'll drive home. And they'll pay admission, we'll say $20, plus parking, we'll say $15, plus gas, we'll say $20, to get into the museum, and they'll come home with nothing. Was that a waste of money? No. They had a great time. It's an event. So when you talk about going to the National, there are people that are from all across the world that are spending thousands of dollars to travel to Washington, D.C. this summer to check out the monuments, to check out the museums, to check out, the burial sites of famous presidents. And they're just going to look. They're just going to be there and look and experience. And those people are not wasting their money. They're having a great time and they're having great memories. There are people this summer, this weekend, that are going to fly across the country to visit friends. Maybe they're going to go meet up with a group of friends from college and go golfing and visit with their college friends. That's not a waste of money. That's an experience. So going to the National is not just about money you're spending in order to get a good deal. It's about going to meet people that you've met online. It's about seeing people that you've seen online, that you've communicated with online, and building friendships. It's about going and looking and seeing some of the most incredible cards in the world. There are going to be $1 million cards in that show. There are going to be $100,000 cards in that show. It's like going to a museum, just like somebody's going to go to a museum in New York or in Paris or in, Washington, D.C. It's an experience. and it's a chance to see friends and make new friends. So for me personally, if you're just talking about dollars and cents of getting the most for your money, yeah, it's probably best to just sit on your computer and buy cards online. That's generally where you're going to get some really good deals. And you're not going to have to pay any money for travel. You're not going to have to spend any money in parking or admission. But if you go to a card show and you get to see these people that you enjoy being around and see things you don't usually get to see, if you're going to go to the National and meet people that you've communicated with but never met, if you are going to see things that you otherwise never would have gotten to see, it's more than just a place where buying and selling of sports cards takes place. It's an experience where you get to see things and you get to experience things and you get to meet people and you get to make memories, which is something that you can't do on eBay.